It began like any other spring day in Oklahoma. Calm skies, warm breeze, kids playing outside. But beneath that calm, the air was waiting to explode. No one knew that May 3rd, 1999 would become the day nature showed its full, without pity power. By nightfall, entire neighborhoods would vanish from the map. What happens when the sky itself turns into a weapon? Let's find out. Morning sunlight broke through thin clouds as the town of Bridge Creek woke up. Farmers checked their fences, mothers packed lunches, and the local radio played soft country songs. But above, high in the atmosphere, dry air from the Rockies collided with warm Gulf moisture. A quiet war had begun miles above their heads. By noon, weather scientists at the National Weather Service noticed strange patterns forming on radar screens, twisting hooks, tight rotations, small but sharp. Veteran storm chaser Jeff Piotrowski, scanning the data, muttered to himself, "Something's starting, and it's not normal." He could feel it, that quiet tension before the storm. The wind began to shift, soft at first, then restless. Leaves danced across driveways. Dogs barked at nothing. The air smelled different, heavy, almost metallic. People didn't know it, but the sky was giving warnings only the experienced could read. By late afternoon, the first tornado watches were issued. Still, life went on. Kids played baseball. A family grilled burgers in their backyard. In Oklahoma, tornado warnings were part of life, but not this one. When the first siren screamed at 6:23 p.m., few believed it. When the second siren yelled louder, the air pressure dropped so suddenly that people felt it in their ears. The soft sounds in the wind had turned into something else, a breath before destruction. The radar blip grew stronger. The curved shape deepened. The monster was about to take its first breath. The clouds twisted like dark muscles overhead, churning, boiling, and growing taller by the second. A wall cloud came down over the plains, gray, wide, and frighteningly organized. Lightning flashed horizontally, crawling across the sky like veins of light. In the storm chase van, Jeff's team watched as the rotation tightened. "It's dropping," someone shouted. At 6:54 p.m., the tornado touched down southwest of Amber, Oklahoma. Within seconds, it grew from a narrow rope into a mile-wide funnel, tearing apart everything in its path. Residents stood frozen, watching a gray wall eat up the horizon. Some ran for shelters. Others stood in shock, cameras shaking in their hands. The wind was no longer wind. It was a solid force, ripping roofs off, flipping cars like toys. Inside the tornado's center, winds reached 301 miles per hour, the fastest ever measured on Earth. The Bridge Creek Moore tornado wasn't just a storm. It was a living, breathing engine of destruction, pulling trees, metal, and memories into its spin. Power lines sparked, transformers exploded in blue fire, and houses vanished in seconds. Concrete foundations were wiped away completely. Not even pipes remained. One weather scientist whispered through the radio, "It's violent. It's beyond F5. As night crept in, the tornado turned towards Moore. The sky was glowing, a strange green, mixed with black and purple lightning. The storm was no longer chasing them. It was hunting them, and Moore was next. At 7:12 p.m., the tornado grew bigger again, 2 miles wide now. Doppler radar had trouble capturing its full spin. Inside the control center, weather scientists stared at the screens, their hands shaking. "This isn't just a tornado," one said softly. "It's a superstorm." Bridge Creek took the full hit first. Entire blocks were erased in seconds. Cars were thrown half a mile. A steel truck frame weighing more than 10,000 pounds was lifted and twisted into a spiral. Survivors described the sound not as thunder, but as a deep, endless roar, like a freight train eating the world. Families huddled in bathtubs, closets, and storm shelters, praying the walls would hold. For many, they didn't. The tornado was so strong it pulled asphalt off roads and grass out of the soil. When it finally moved on, it left nothing but bare ground and broken pieces. Helicopters filmed the result, a scar across the land stretching 38 miles long. The camera zoomed in on where houses once stood. Only outlines in dirt remained. It looked like the moon's surface. Reporters would later call it the most powerful tornado ever recorded. But for those who survived, it wasn't just power, it was failure. The sky that had always protected them had turned hunter. As the storm roared northeast toward Moore, the next city waited in silence, unaware that their fate was already sealed. 7:28 p.m. The tornado reached the edge of Moore. Power flickered once, then everything went dark. The roar grew louder, not like thunder anymore, but like thousands of engines spinning in madness. Families who had seconds to react rushed into closets, under staircases, and anywhere that felt solid. For most, there wasn't time to think, only to hope. A brick home on Heather Lane collapsed in under 3 seconds. Across town, a daycare roof peeled away like paper. Cars on Interstate 44 were tossed from the highway, slamming into fields half a mile away. The air was thick with flying broken pieces, wooden beams, shattered glass, metal sheets, turning the sky into a blender of destruction. Police radios cried out with mess. "Moore's gone," one officer cried. The storm was now nearly 2 miles wide, with wind speeds holding steady over 300 miles per hour. It wasn't just flattening homes, it was erasing them completely. Foundations were wiped clean. Water heaters, concrete steps, and even underground shelters were broken through. In just 20 minutes, over 1,800 homes disappeared. The storm's damage bill would reach more than $1 billion, making it one of the costliest tornadoes in American history at the time. But no number could measure what was truly lost that night. When the funnel finally lifted over Del City, people crawled from hiding, dazed, covered in dust and insulation. They looked around and saw nothing familiar. The streets had vanished. Landmarks were gone. Moore had become a ghost town carved by the wind. But even after the funnel vanished, the danger wasn't over. Storm chasers, rescuers, and survivors faced a new nightmare. The result: long after the tornado lifted, its echoes haunted the plains. Emergency crews had trouble finding roads under piles of ruins. The smell of gas leaks filled the air. Fires sparked where homes once stood. The sirens had stopped, but the night was far from quiet. Only the low rumble of rescue vehicles moving through ruins. Storm chasers followed the tornado's trail, filming twisted trees and flattened homes. Some wept behind their cameras. Jeff Piotrowski, who had chased dozens of tornadoes before, said softly, "I've never seen anything like this. It's like the hand of God just pressed down." Radar archives showed the amazing wind speeds clocked at 301 miles per hour. The measurement came from a movable Doppler radar mounted on a truck, sitting just miles away from the tornado's center. It was the strongest wind ever recorded on Earth. Scientists would study that reading for many years, trying to understand how such power could exist in nature. But for those who lived through it, science didn't matter. They only remembered the sound, the endless roar, the pressure that made their ears burst, the darkness that swallowed everything. Search teams worked through the night. By dawn, 36 lives were lost. Hundreds were injured. Thousands were homeless. Yet somehow, in the middle of the silence, small signs of survival appeared. A flag still standing, a photograph untouched, a child found safe under a fallen mattress. And as the first sunlight touched the broken town, rescue workers realized the tornado's story wasn't just about destruction. It was about what came next. The data from the 3rd of May 1999 fully updated everything weather scientists thought they knew about tornadoes. The Bridge Creek Moore storm wasn't just powerful. It was perfectly put together. Every layer of the atmosphere had lined up to create the ideal tornado engine. Humid air rising, dry air sinking, and jet stream winds twisting the system into extreme violence. In simple terms, it was nature's perfect storm, rare, violent, and unstoppable. Experts estimated that the tornado's energy output equaled that of a small nuclear bomb, yet it had formed from nothing more than wind, pressure, and heat. People across Oklahoma couldn't stop talking about it. Some called it the finger of God. Others said it was a warning that climate patterns were shifting, storms growing stronger. Weather scientists pushed for better radar, faster alerts, and improved shelters. The tornado became a turning point in weather safety. The images on television stunned the world. A school reduced to splinters. A fire truck overturned like a toy. A woman standing in the ruins of her kitchen holding a single plate. Tears falling silently. Despite the destruction, something remarkable happened. A togetherness that no storm could break. Volunteers poured in from nearby towns. Donations flooded shelters. Even storm chasers put down their cameras to help dig through broken pieces. For the first time, the phrase "Oklahoma Strong" spread across the nation. And it started right here, in the heart of Moore. But before healing could begin, the survivors had to face one final truth: that the storm's memory would never fade. The morning after, the sun rose weak and pale over a landscape that no longer looked like Earth. Power lines hung low like broken vines. Cars lay stacked like playing cards. The air was heavy with dust and shock. People wandered barefoot through the ruins, holding photographs, toys, or whatever pieces of their lives they could still find. Reporters arrived to record the result, but the survivors spoke little. There were no words strong enough to describe what they had seen. One mother whispered, "We didn't hear it coming. One minute we were eating dinner, the next, everything was gone." Her house had stood there for 20 years. Now it was just a patch of dirt. Churches opened their doors as shelters. Volunteers cooked meals over camp stoves. Families hugged strangers, realizing they had survived the same nightmare together. The air carried an odd calm, the kind that comes only after a mess burns itself out. In the days that followed, workers marked homes with spray paint, clear, safe, or sometimes, heartbreakingly, search again. Every street corner told a story. Every pile of rubble held a memory. Weather scientists, very tired but determined, reviewed radar footage in silence. They knew they had witnessed history, the most powerful tornado on record. Yet for those who lived through it, statistics didn't matter. What mattered was survival and the will to rebuild. That night, as candles flickered in the dark, the people of Moore found strength not in walls or roofs, but in each other. And in that silence, a promise formed: to rebuild stronger and never forget the night the sky fell. Months later, new houses began to rise where the old ones had stood. Streets were paved again, schools reopened, and laughter slowly returned to the air. But the scar remained, not just on the land, but in the minds of those who saw the tornado's fury. The Bridge Creek Moore tornado became a symbol of both destruction and toughness. Scientists studied it for years, trying to understand how nature could create such power, winds faster than a race car, pressure strong enough to rip steel apart. Survivors, meanwhile, carried quieter lessons: to respect the sky, to listen to the wind, and to never take a calm day for granted. The rebuilt town installed underground shelters in nearly every home. Warning systems were upgraded, and sirens were tested weekly. The disaster changed how the entire country prepared for storms. Out of the ruins came progress, born from loss, shaped by courage. Every May, people gather to light candles where the tornado first struck. They stand in silence, watching the wind move through the grass, gentle and calm now. For a moment, it feels like the storm remembers too, not in rage, but in peace. The day the wind remembered was not about fear anymore. It was about lasting power, togetherness, and the delicate strength of those who faced nature's worst and stood back up again. May 3rd, 1999 proved how small humans can be against the sky, yet how powerful we become when we rise again. The Bridge Creek Moore tornado changed science, broke records, and tested hearts. But in the end, it also defined toughness. What would you do if the sky turned against you?